This is Earthmovers
with Alison, Mariella, Désir, Stephanie Flippin, and Verna, NezBegay, Volker.
A trail podcast reclaiming the narrative.
Welcome to Earthmovers. I am Verna NezBegay Volker, one of the co-hosts of this podcast, and my other co-host,
Alison, Mariella, Désir. Hey, y'all.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to our podcast. Before we get started, we want to give a shout out to Ultra Running Shoes. And Alison, you said that you've been wearing some Ultras, right?
Yes, I just got my first pair of the Women's Experience Wild 2. And I mean, they're awesome. They really are. I have been getting out in the trail recently now that my son's back in school, and they feel good. The colorway is beautiful. So I'm living my best little trail life in my Ultras.
Best little, yes, exactly. I know I love Ultra just because of the toe room. I just feel like my toes are not squished. So yes. So anyway, we want to give a shout out to Ultra for sponsoring this podcast. If you want to know more about Ultra, you can go to www.ultrarunning.com.
I also want to give a shout out to some of the folks who supported us on Kickstarter. We've got 3 shout outs left. I want to give a shout out to LMS Radio /Podbean, to Lisea Malloy, and to Jack Gady. Thank you so much for your support. If it weren't for you, you would not be listening to this podcast. So we appreciate you. Today's guest on the podcast is Yolanda López Haugabook. Did I get that right?
You did.
Okay. Known as Yo, she is a marathoner, a hybrid athlete, and community builder based in Nashville. She ran her first marathon after just 5 months of training and is the co-founder of Sin Miedo Trail Runners, a fast-growing BIPOC-led trail running community she started with her husband to uplift cultura, courage, and connection in the outdoors. Before we get into the interview, how are you doing, Yolanda? What's up? What's new?
I'm doing so good. Super excited to be here. I was saying before, I'm fangirling with all of you all. I follow you on social media, and I have been since day one. I was like, oh my gosh, everybody's been here the whole time. I just didn't know where to find them. So I'm just super excited to be here. So thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. And Verna, you've been busy. What have you been up to?
Yes, August was crazy. So, I ran my 100-miler, and then I just got back from Sydney, Australia yesterday and ran the Sydney Marathon. And if you are a trail runner versus like road, though trail running has a lot of mileage, road racing was just as hard. I was just like, I think by halfway I was like, let's just be done with this marathon. So, anyway, so it's been great, very rewarding. So I feel pretty good, a little jet lag. So, but yes, Alison, I've noticed that the Take the Lead is coming up. Like next week, right?
Exactly. Next week is is it the 4th or 5th annual Women of Color Take the Lead retreat in New York City? Yeah, I think the 5th. So we're bringing it home to New York, and it's sold out. We have just like an incredible program and amazing sponsors. Actually, I'll be hosting a live recording of this podcast at Take the Lead. So stay tuned for that.
So Yolanda, I wanted to talk about you grew up in LA, and then you moved to Nashville, Tennessee. I want to talk about your transition because that is like 2 different worlds, honestly, when I think about it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Biggest culture clash ever. I mean, my first year here in Nashville, I was in a smaller town called Mount Juliet. And at the time I was literally the only Latina in the whole school. So I was a commodity. I was like a circus. I was all the things. People were asking me things like, hey, is it true that you have a gun? Is it true that you sell oranges after school? Just so they found out. I grew up in Inglewood, California, so they really found out what that could be like. But I was in this constant state of fight or flight, and I didn't know that this would be my life. And I was so mad at my parents at the time, like, why did you do this to me? But little did I know that this would be where my story began. But it definitely was a huge culture clash for me. completely two different worlds, and still is. I mean, there's days
Right.
I'm like, do I really live here? Is this real life?
Right.
Um, but
hmm
for the most part, it was such a big change to come from the West Coast to the South.
Yeah. It was interesting you say that because we moved from like from a big city to a rural area. And it's interesting how kids, because I assume you were in high school, right?
Yes,
About
my
yeah,
freshman year at high school.
yeah. So it's interesting how kids who are not from these areas, they make this like assumption, like, my son, like, oh, while you're from the cities, like it's scary, or how could you be there? And even like kids at that age, my son's like, it's really not that bad, people. It's fine,
Yeah.
but that's just people just make those assumptions. And so you were a freshman in high school, so you've been living there for so long. Do you feel like you made a lot of connections more so with your own community being there in Nashville?
To be honest, it has been a big of a struggle up until now that we are doing Sin Miedo. And it's been really interesting because in the beginning, there wasn't a lot of people that looked like me. Eventually, Nashville started to really grow in that space. But a lot of the people that were coming here are, immigrant families that are working sun up till sundown, and just a lot of that. And so during the pandemic, I was so desperate to really connect with my community, and I ended up doing a lot of connecting with people in the West Coast through an app called Clubhouse, which is an audio listening like social app.
Does
And
that still exist? Hold on.
yes,
You were taking
yes,
me back.
way back,
Clubhouse
right?
was like everything during the
Yeah,
pandemic. Oh my
yeah, and
gosh.
and I did so much work there in the wellness space and all the things that I'm passionate about. But I just started to realize then how much I needed community and how much I was missing that piece in my life. And so then fast forward post pandemic, and me coming back to real life, I started to realize that now these newer or younger, not newer, but younger generations were like getting together. They were more present. And I was like, where was all this at? Like, where were all these people at? I don't remember any of this. And so it has been a really, even though it's been, you know, years and years, I'm talking about like 20 years, right? Over the time that I've been here, it still has been a very slow moving process. I mean, I live in the dirty South, right? And so even when those communities are there, I feel like they're in hiding, and I feel like they're kind of like invisible to the majority of us because they're either purposefully being invisible or they're always being excluded, which takes us back to what Sin Miedo is wanting to reverse now.
I'd love for you to share the start of your running journey. How did you get into running? Was it trail immediately? Like, what's your story?
It was not. It was actually road running that I started
Mm.
first. I was getting closer to uh, turning 40 years old, and my husband has been running for 10 plus years now. I mean, he's a runner, like he's really been in it. And he was like, hey, these women that I run with are going to be doing a marathon, and it's pretty cool. It's all women, and it's called the Every Women's Marathon. And I'm
Hmm.
like, okay, that's cute. That kind of happened also with the trail running. I'm like, okay, good. What are you saying? Because I'm not a runner, right, at all. And he's like, no, just saying. And I don't want to say that he was trying to convince me, but then something, I'm a very energetic person, something really sparked my spirit to like, wow, maybe this is a sign from the universe, right? Like maybe I'm supposed to be leaning into this a little more. And then of course, like a crazy person, but also very passionate and committed to the things that I am being led to, I was like, I'm gonna sign up for a marathon. And I did. And I started trained for 5 months for the Every Women's Marathon, which I know that you all know all about.
hmm
And I did it. And that, in the midst of that, which this has been a year now that I've been running, we went to our very first trail run. And I believe that our story really started there because my husband and I were the only two people of color when I went there. And that experience, I realize now, really stuck with us. But at that time, because we were both preparing for our marathons, he was going to run it with me. He was also preparing for his first world major. And so we kind of just chucked it to the side. And needless to say that we didn't go back. But fast forward almost 6 months later, and Antoine, my husband, shares with me a post about the RIDC, the Running Industry Diversity Coalition, which I know that you all are very familiar with. But the
Yes.
Oh,
freedom,
we got stories.
We got
yeah,
we
I
got
know it.
stories.
No, I know that. I know that
That'll
y'all
be
were the
another
reason. So
episode.
it's all your fault why I'm here. No, I'm kidding. No, but their Freedom to Run Back Outside program, and I looked at it and I was like, cute. Thanks for sharing. And I was like, what is this? What are you saying? And he was like, I think I'm gonna apply. We should apply. And I'm like, cute. Go ahead, have fun. And then about 2 months later, he's like, hey, I got the email from the RIDC. I got accepted. Did you get an email? And I was like, oh, you were serious. My bad. I was like, oh, okay. And so
Wait,
then,
I wanna pause for a minute
yeah,
because you were saying all kinds of stuff that happened in less than a year. Like, this
Yeah.
is
all of it.
wild. Okay, so you
Yes.
went from my husband's a runner, I see him run,
Yeah.
to him saying, "Oh, you should run this, you should run every
This
woman's
marathon.
marathon," to
I'm like,
training
okay.
for 5 months, running the marathon. In the midst of that, there was a trail run. And then you end up, I mean, is this who you are? Is this like normal for you?
Yes. And I think it all kind of like sped up because I should say that prior to all of this, during the pandemic, we have a son who lives with autism. And at the time, he was very much immune compromised. And so I quarantined or isolated, I should say, till September of 2023. So when everybody had gone back to real life, I had so much catching up to do that I think that when I came back, I was like, it's mama's turn. I'm gonna be 40.
Mhm.
It's my turn.
Right.
I'm
Mhm.
ready to live out the things that I maybe have held back on because I chose to be that advocate for my son. And so when he says, "Hey, I got this thing from the RIDC," I'm like, "Okay, great." He's like, "You didn't apply?" I was like, "No, I didn't know that you were being like for real." And so then we realized that one of the participants was selected. Both of them got selected amongst, I think it was like 275 athletes. 14 of them got selected to be part of this program, and he was also here in Nashville. So fast forward, myself, my husband, and our friend Gabe, who's the other person who got selected, we went to another trail run, and this time with the intention of like testing it out, right? We always have this joke within our marriage. When we got married, the person who was marrying us said, repeat after me, where you camp, I camp. And so now he uses it against me. I do too, to be honest. So he was like, remember where I trail run, you trail run.
Right.
Just like I was like, remember where I marathon, you marathon. So he kind of used it against me. And so we went and we realized that there was probably about 60 people there, and we were the only people of color. And so then I really felt it, and I was like, oh, this is different. This is
Right.
not like road running. This felt completely different. And I'm not saying they were like go away, but the looks
No.
and the feeling,
Yep.
the energy was like, what is this? Why are y'all here? I've never seen you before, right? And eventually
I'm gonna
Mhm.
I'm gonna pause again. I'm a therapist, right? So I'm
no,
always
please do.
pausing people in the middle to like,
She's doing her
let's
therapy
go
sessions.
I
back,
love it. I
right?
love it.
But I like that you said that because I think there's a misunderstanding when we, people of color, indigenous folks, say that we were the only or some of a few, and we felt uncomfortable that people, the majority, white people assume it's because somebody like said something racist to us or
Right.
pointed
Right.
at us, made us, and it's not that. It's just that when you're in the dominant culture, everything is as you're used to, right? But when you're one of the only there, you notice that things aren't catered towards you, right? That you're there's a sense of hypervigilance, right? So I appreciate that you mentioned that because what we're not saying that trail running spaces are outright racist. Some are, not
Yeah.
all are, right?
Right.
But you
Mhm.
don't have to be screaming the N word in my face for me to get a sense that this is a white space. This is not comfortable for me, right? I just wanted to
Absolutely.
pause
No,
on that. I
yeah.
Yeah.
appreciate
Mhm.
Absolutely. And we came back again, right? A second time, and there was always almost an energy undertone of like, oh, you haven't had enough yet. Okay. And again, nobody
Wow.
pointed anything
Mhm.
or said anything specific, but when you know, you know. And so we just kept coming back, and we invited another one of our friends who we call our nature girl. She has been running for 10 plus years and on trails. She's Mexican American. And we just kept coming back. And so what ended up happening is that we ended up inviting other of our friends that are BIPOC that were road runners, and eventually started to realize that some of them were already running trails and we just didn't really know, or we just didn't really have that conversation. And if we did, we probably like, no thanks, like we were just kind of pushing it away. And so one Sunday, a group of 6 of us ended up just coinciding and ended up together for a trail run. And we pulled up, and I look at my husband, and it was so magical because there was no words really. We just looked at each other, and I just said, you realize that we're all BIPOC today, right? And he's like, yep. And I said, are we going to tell them? Are we doing it? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, okay, let's do it. And so we get out of the car, and I'm like, guys, before we even run, we have a question. If we were to start a group, a BIPOC group for trail running, would you support it? Would you be down to do it? And they were like, yeah, like, is that really a question? Like, yeah, when? Tomorrow? Like, what are we doing? And so I don't think that they knew the seriousness and the passion that was going to develop so quickly. And that's why I say that, well, one, the RIDC now lovingly calls me the 15th runner, because I have been so like moved and impacted by the program and just by that opportunity to get outdoors and experience trails. But I always say that they gifted us the seeds, right? And what happened though is that those seeds of like inspiration and support and resources, we didn't have a pot to put them in, and meaning the community or space, and we didn't have the right soil. We didn't have those people that looked like us, that had the same shared experiences. And so we realized that it didn't exist for us. So we had these seeds in our hands, but we didn't know what to do with them or where to put them. And so we were like, let's go to a pottery class, and make our own damn pot. And so we went ahead and did that. And so we had no idea that there were so many people out there eager to help water those seeds, and like us, just hadn't found the right pot or soil to start it. And so 90 days later, we are blooming, right? Not only are those seeds are growing but blooming. 3,300 people are watching our story on Instagram. For me, it's never about the numbers, but it does go to show that there is the need there. I think we have like 105 members in our private Halo group, all in 90 days, right? It went from 3 of us starting the trail race series, because of the whole thing with the RIDC, to this last one we did. We took 16 athletes with us. So the need is there, the excitement, the need for that community has always been there. It's just that we were all kind of outside of that. So shout
Right.
out to our founding members for saying yes to our
Yeah.
craziness on that Sunday morning.
Yeah, I was just going to go on that too. Like, what do you feel like since starting this group? I didn't realize what you guys haven't been around too long, but like, what are the fun parts of what you're doing? And also, like, what are the hard moments? Because, Alice and I have been in this work for a while, and we have our hard moments. But I like how you also just here, just how you describe, like, sometimes, like, we want to be in these spaces and we want people to see that, but then we get tired of that and we're like, okay, you know what? We're just gonna do our own thing. And I like how you did that. We're just gonna do our own thing. So yeah, tell us more about the fun parts, and again, and then also highlight the hard parts in what you're doing now.
The fun part is really seeing people get excited and show up every Sunday with, I know that I belong here, because I keep
Mm-hmm.
emphasizing that, because there's times where you get there and just kind of like standing around and just like hoping somebody will say hi to you or even look
Right.
at you.
Mm-hmm.
And with our group, when you see people pull up and everybody's immediately like, hey, right, and like really excited. If you see any of our videos, we're always hugging. Somebody pointed it out. I was like, you guys hug a lot. And I'm like, yes, because we're excited to see each other. We're happy that you chose to get up early and be with us. So the fun part has been watching that community really find their way and come alive. We had a kickoff not that long ago, about a couple of weeks ago, and we had 54 people showed up, and
Wow, that's
47 of
good.
those were people of color. And for us, that's a big deal, because from the very beginning, now switching a little bit to like the hard parts,
Mm-hmm.
one of the hardest parts has been knowing that, or more so what it feels like to be the only ones and trying to build something from scratch with mostly limited resources.
Right.
And
Mm-hmm.
even if we have the resources, and the resources can be found, being intentional about those resources and how we use them, who we're getting them from. So it takes a lot of courage to keep showing up when the trails don't always feel like they're for you. And so the fact that they keep coming back has been really exciting. We've also had to balance, this has been a big thing because we are the first BIPOC trail group in Nashville, at least to our knowledge, right? But we've also been needing to balance being BIPOC centered. We've been very, very like foot on the ground, like, nope, we're not moving from that. I don't care whose feelings get hurt. This is not about hurting anyone's feelings. This is about centering people of color. And balancing that with welcoming allies, especially in that first month, there was a lot of like, "What do you mean I can't come? Why? Why are you leaving me out?" Or, or even having to explain that to our BIPOC participants of that we're not leaving anyone out, that this is to make sure that our foundation is strong. And so that takes intention because our space is about centering people of color first and making sure we don't compromise that intention, and still welcome true allies, right? Those who want to really support the mission, those that are really showing up without needing to be centered as well, because we've dealt with that a little bit already. Or like, if there's such a thing, especially here in the South, right, that there's a lot of sensitivity around that. And so for us to really stay, very firm in our decision to center people of color, navigating brand partnerships has been something that we have had to also move intentionally with, figuring out which relationships are authentic and which are just like surface level, or which ones are just
going to
not,
throw you products.
or not willing to be silent allies, right? And so there's been that emotional weight of starting something new, carrying, both like the hopes and the fears, what it means to lead with that movement, but also, am I doing the right things, things for the collective? But we always go back to our name, right? Sin Miedo.
That was going to be my question. Tell me about the origin of the name.
Yeah. So culturally, historically, uh, culturally and historically, people of color have always had to live with fear of something or live in some sort of fear. Now we have worked through a lot of that, but whether that's fear of being excluded, fear of not feeling safe or being safe. And so we decided on the name Sin Miedo, number one, to cause a little bit of discomfort because it is a Spanish word, right? And no, not everybody in our group speaks Spanish, and no, it's not Latinx centered, right? It's BIPOC centered, but it was, and because I'm convinced that by 2026 I want to make sure we're all bilingual. We want to like help everybody get bilingual, but we wanted to really come with something powerful, and without, it translates to without fear. So it has become our mantra, the way that we move in everything that we're doing. And so our logo itself has an adinkra symbol, which is an African symbol in Shim Shim, which reminds us of how the trails are, they're very similar to the journey of our life, that our life is never straight. There's always like twists and turns, and then we need to bend and adapt and keep moving. And so we chose that intentionally in our logo to create that reminder that this is not going to be easy. We're going to have to like adapt and move and change things, but that those struggles that come with that are going to take us to now our colors, right? Which is orange, blue, and yellow. Orange for the vibrancy of our communities, the just the light that we are, and that everything, the blue from the sky to the sun, belongs to us as well. And so we were very intentional with, talking about Sin Miedo in a way that people just didn't feel like, I always say this, and you'll hear me say it even in some of our videos, we're not just a little running club. We're a movement. We want to be something that, maybe a year from now, you'll see another chapter somewhere else. We have a lot of people from other countries, and there's a group that comes and runs with us from Venezuela, and people in their country, like people in Venezuela, are like, can we have a Sin Miedo group here? How do we do that? I'm like, wait, hold on, guys. I know I'm crazy, but slow down a little bit. And so that's why we, go back to that part, that if we just do everything without fear of maybe even making a mistake, right? That we can really build something incredible together.
Well, I want to switch gears a little bit because I'm not like the best at geography, but I didn't realize Nashville actually had trails. So educate. What is the trail situation like in
Right.
Nashville?
Yeah, so that's another thing that, we have been very fortunate. And I always say and believe that there's privilege within even our spaces, right? That we understand that there's maybe other cities that don't have access to the trails. Now, I want to say, there's like over 100 and something miles worth of trails just in like the
Oh,
Nashville
Oh,
area.
wow.
okay.
There's a lot in Tennessee. Tennessee's huge, right? But the issue becomes that there, well, number one, I know that there has to be a lot of like taking care of the land and making sure that we respect the rules and that, they don't like big groups running together. So we like spread out. But when you're a person of color spreading out into two people or three, it gets a little even more intimidating, right? Than all of us
Hmm.
together. And so there is quite a bit of trail and places to go to, but then you have to think about where everybody is living in the city. Like, not everybody is like outside of Nashville. Some people are further out, maybe an hour away from Nashville. So that adds another 30 minutes. So sometimes people are traveling an hour and a half or 45 minutes. We do our normal time wherever we go is usually, with the exception of one of the trails, it's usually 45 to an hour drive. And so right now I know that the people that are coming, a lot of them are also, athletes that have been doing some of this in their own countries. Once they come here, all of that kind of stops. So I know that they're very excited and eager and willing. But we also think about those people that are curious and they're like, I'm not
Right.
about to drive 45 minutes to go torture myself, you know?
Right.
And so we go back to, of course, the common denominator in a lot of these of our stories, that accessibility is still, not the best per se
Hmm.
in the
Hmm.
area. Yeah.
We chatted a bit before we got on this started recording, and you shared that you got some new trail running shoes.
I
So
did.
what you running? Tell
Yes.
me about it.
Yes. Shout out to Ultra again. Hey,
Yeah.
I just got the Olympus trail shoes, and a lot of people have always said, "Hey, be careful with zero drop shoes and whatnot."
Yeah.
Yeah, they've
Mhm.
have.
Yeah, and so I do rotate them, just to kind of, really get strong with my feet. And it's not road running like Verna said. It's a completely different dynamic, right? That your feet are like, girl, what are you doing? What is this?
Right.
What's all this extra stuff you're
What
doing?
are you
And I'm a
doing?
dancer. I love dancing. So the fact that my feet are still mad at me some days, but I love the Olympus, especially because of the cushion that it gives me. It has made it really comfortable for me. I started running in a different type of shoe that didn't have a whole lot of cushion or support, I should say. And so I'm enjoying it. And to be telling the complete truth, in the beginning of my running, I was convinced that I needed like zero drop shoes all the time. So I did actually start running in ultras on the road as
Hey,
well. So yay!
Yay.
you heard it here
Yay.
first.
That's
It's
ultra.
the truth. And we appreciate you, Ultra, of course, for supporting us and the opportunity to have these really important conversations.
For sure. I want to just talk about how you shared a lot about your run group, your community, but as a person coming into this space, how do you see as a whole the trail running industry as a whole? I mean, I could give you my 2 cents, but
Of
how much
course.
time do
Oh,
we have?
we know, Berta. This is not your day.
If I, yeah, I would
Don't
take
worry,
this.
Berna. I got you because I follow you, girl. I'm with
Yeah,
you
so
on
yeah,
it.
I want to hear. I'm always curious about, because sometimes I always feel like, is it just only me? Am I the only one seeing this? But yeah, I want to hear your perspective.
So I'm a bookworm. I always say, don't let the purple hair and booty shaking fool you, because I love to dance. People know it. Because I like my facts, right? I like to,
Right.
even when we started trail running, I was like, but wait a minute, where's all this information coming from? I need to know. And according to the Outdoor Industry Association, in 2024, more people than ever got outdoors. I think it's like 181 million people or something like that. And what's powerful for us at Sin Miedo is that the biggest growth didn't come from the usual white, middle aged, college educated folks. It came from kids, it came from seniors, from families, from people the South, which really excited me because I was like, oh, okay, that's us. That's where we are, right? And especially from Black and Latina communities. I think 13 and 12% respectively. And that's millions of new people finding their way into the outdoors. Um, and the number of core participants really surprised me as well. And especially because, again, a lot of those core, so for people that are listening, core meaning people that go outdoors consistently, not just for leisure or once in a while. And it is growing, and also among Black and Latinx communities. And so that means that not only are more of us showing up, we're also staying. We're
Right.
consistent. We're excited. We're like reconnecting. There's times where we run together, and even if it's three of us, in the beginning it was maybe like five of us or six of us, and you could feel the ground underneath us like drumming, right? So
Mm.
it's like a
I
like
Oh
love
my
that.
gosh,
like a
Earth
muscle memory.
Movers.
I
Yes,
love
Oh,
that.
exactly right.
it's all
Exactly right.
coming
I'm
together.
telling you, this was meant to be. And so when we
Yes.
are running, we're like, we're supposed to be here, right? But here's the but. But the industry, at least to my knowledge, and again, this is from what I've gathered so far, that the industry hasn't caught up yet. It even in with all of this growth, there are still not enough of us out there, number one, still, but we're not being represented in trail spaces, in the media, in the advertisement, in my favorite, in leadership. You
Right.
know, for me to say, hey, we're going to do this panel, but I'm going to bring my BIPOC people. Well, who are you bringing? Don't question me. We got it, right? And
Right.
for us to really be reflected in that, I think that we still have some moving and some growing to do, but the growth is real. And that's why we chose the name, right? Sin Miedo, without fear, because it's about creating a space that where people of color can step into and not feel invisible and not feel
Right.
excluded and not feel questioned. Oh my goodness, that one. Questioned.
Right.
Like, when are you doing it? How are you doing it? Who's coming? Like, I got it. Trust my leadership. I mean, I've gotten us this far, right? And not our people, but the
Yeah.
outsourced allies. That there's again so many of our athletes that, I mean, we have somebody who was an Olympic medalist that runs with us, and I'm like,
Oh,
what?
wow.
And we didn't know these things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, come to this country, we're talking about like a lot of immigrant families, and they come here, and all of those dreams are out the window. They're gone, and so I think that the more that we take up space and the more that we get, and I have a conflicting, opinion even with myself on that. But there's times where like, no, I'm not gonna not participate in your race because you don't want me here. I'm actually gonna do it just to make the point that I am not going anywhere. And so when we keep showing up, even in the spaces where we started trail running, we kept coming back with more and more and more and more people. They were like, oh, you're serious? Okay. And then the energy shifted a little bit more, right? But they have to have that time and space to get used to us. I don't want to say used to us because we shouldn't have to facilitate that, but they will have to, you know, line up with what's happening. And having kids out there, and all of these numbers show that this new generation that is coming right behind us is like, we don't care, we're going to show up, and that's what we need to teach them, that they shouldn't feel like they don't belong, so we still have a long way to go though.
I appreciate the nuance that you are bringing to these conversations because there is a yes and in all of the things that you're saying, right? Like I have that same internal battle around, do I want to show up in spaces to prove that I belong there, or do I want to just create my own spaces,
Right.
right?
Right.
And I think now I'm also 40. I'm in a space. I'm in a frame of mind where I actually just want to create my own things,
Yeah.
right? Because I've spent a lot of time being the only. I've spent a lot of time trying to talk to people, trying to convince people. But the truth is, it's not either or, right? And oftentimes people feel conflicted. Like, which should I do? What's the right thing to do? The right thing to do is to get outside and move your body, and however you want to, right? It's like
Absolutely.
to be an activist doesn't mean that you're always putting yourself in the line of fire. Sometimes it's creating new paths. It's
Absolutely.
both and. Yeah. I want to ask a personal question. You are working with your husband. I imagine he's fantastic, but also like you're working with your husband. What is that like?
Oh man. Um, I'm very passionate if you can't tell already. And
No.
no way. And he's very, as a matter of fact, kind of guy, right? I'm very
Are we
more,
married to the same person?
yes, 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 we are. And we're sister wives, because he's very much like, what are the facts, right? And he's very good, which I'm so grateful for him because he truly does ground me in the moments that I need it the most. But I do believe that my passion and my ability to see beyond just what's in front of me, like really see, like, no, but if we do this, this could happen, and I know it will, right? And I think that he has really learned to embrace those things as well. But it really helps me be grounded in the facts that, especially when I'm dealing with, like, let's say things with brands or allyship and things that are a little bit more where I'm like, okay, well, we don't have to talk. We don't have to be cool. You know what I mean? And he's like, wait, but what about this? Right. And so he helps me think through those things. And then there's times where we don't agree. And that's been more so now with Sin Miedo, not necessarily not agree fully, but just like difference of opinion. And so we hash it out. Then we're like, okay, now I see it. Now I see how you see
Right.
it. Now I see how what I'm saying. But it's so much fun and it's been so rewarding. We did a 4 race trail series, um, race series together, and to just be at the end, and whether he was done or I was done, and seeing each other like go through that struggle, because it's a whole nother party than doing a regular 10K, right? Like a
Right.
road 10K. And to see him just have that whole demeanor of like, I am so proud of us, has been really, really
That's
special.
awesome.
Just, I think ever since we started running together, they say that you start to run to get away from your problems until your problems start running with you, right? And
Right.
so I started running with
Yeah.
them. You're welcome.
Oh my God.
But it's been really, really beautiful for our marriage as well, to just experience things that we never even heard our parents even talk about, right? Let
Right.
alone experience that together. And so it's been really cool to work with him. And I say it's all his fault, but I lovingly say, like, thank you for this opportunity to embrace this life, because otherwise I probably wouldn't have done it.
For sure.
He kind of paved the way for me to really get out here now and be a pretend 10-year 10-year runner. I feel like I've been running for 10 years.
So what is your hope? What are your hopes for the future?
Oh man, where do I begin? I think that there's so many things to say, but I think my hope is that no one ever feels like they don't belong. For me, because going back to the very beginning of our conversation, coming from a place where I felt included and in a vibrant like community, and there was a lot of unity and togetherness, to moving to a place like Nashville, especially at that time where I knew no one, I had no idea what I was stepping into. I know what that feels like. I've always known what that feels like. I've always lacked that community. So I really hope that no one has to feel that way. I want to see more BIPOC led groups across the country. And we're manifesting, some more Sin Miedo community chapters. You never know, across the US, across the world. I told you Venezuela, they've been ready. I'm like, give me a minute. And safer and more welcoming spaces, and especially in the South. There's so much going on with our BIPOC communities, especially our Latinx community. And so I really hope that a lot of that changes. I know that it's going to be a while, but that in the midst of that, we can make real partnerships with those people who should not only be walking beside us, but sometimes step in front of us and take the hit, and and really live up to the things that they say that they are standing for. We've
For
had
sure.
some really good experiences too. I mean, shout out to Goo, because Goo has been from day one just
Yes, shout out to
incredible.
Goo.
Go.
Yes. And funny thing is, and I've told them this already, but my very first gel ever, when I first started road running, was a good gel. So it's all in the layout, right, of
Right.
how this all transpired. But if nothing else, I want the next generation. We always say, for our slogan, if you will, run free, run bold, run sin miedo, that they can get out
Right.
there and not be afraid to try things that maybe culturally were just something they heard about.
What is, this Earthmovers is the name of this podcast.
Oh,
And,
we're going to cry. I don't want to cry.
we share
Okay.
stories of, the story of just how we are on our feet and we're running in the lands, the earth. So what does being an earth mover mean to you?
This one, my heart is already like melting just thinking about it, because I firsthand have been able to not just in words experience what earth movers mean. That's why when you all started the podcast, and I've been so excited to just even listen and like get all like what am I going to get from this, because I knew that, like I was saying, we were running together and that the feet literally sounded like drumming. It was so ancestral.
Right.
But I recently saw a woman on Instagram that I think she visited, I think it was Ghana, and she saw a sign that said, "Walk as if 3,000 of your ancestors are walking behind you." And that has given me to like what earth movers means to me. And I want to start with saying that we cannot forget that the earth has seen everything, even the parts that of our history that they want to erase or that they have silenced. And we carry the earth inside of us. Our body is made from it. And our ancestors, I always think about, they return to it. And so being an earth mover to me is about, it's not just about shifting dirt. It's about shifting spirits. It's about moving energy. When we run together as Sin Miedo, we're moving energy. We are loosening and releasing those parts that have been stuck, whether that's fear, whether that's silence, invisibility, so that things like joy and community can really flow again. And so being an earth mover means making sure that, like our ancestors, that the ground remembers our footsteps today, so that in the future, that they know, the future knows that we were also here. And I don't ever want to forget that. And I remember telling my father about Sin Miedo, and I showed him pictures, and he looked at me and he said, "I've never been in a forest before. I've never seen these things you're showing me." My mom, she came to our kickoff. That was her first time running, let alone being in the woods. And so that's what I mean by the future remembering that we were here too, that we took those steps, that we were those ancestors that walked through those beautiful sacred lands. So that's what being an earth mover is.
I love it.
What? That's it, everybody. That was the sermon of all sermons. Yolanda, you are incredible. We are so grateful that we had this time with you. Shout out to Ultra again for making these moments possible. You're incredible. I mean, I'm coming to Nashville, so I'll see you soon.
Let's go.
If you want to learn more about Yolanda, check her out, Sin Miedo. And Ultra, head to ultrarunning.com. And perhaps most importantly, like, subscribe, review, do all the things. Earthmovers Podcast, we are here reclaiming the narrative.